The boards of the early 50s were hollow plywood monsters. They weighed a ton, they leaked, they took no prisoners. But surfing as we know it today really began to take shape with the arrival of two newish materials, foam plastic and fiberglass, the start of a new era. In 1958, two Americans, Bing Copeland and Rick Stoner, showed up on our shores with what were probably the first Malibus. They were balsa boards shaped by Dale Velzy.
When these two Americans decided they were going home, they had about 5 boards, I think it was, half made, and I bought the business off them and finished those boards off and then continued on building these styrene boards.
The pop-out was pretty much a standard board that sufficed in the very early part of it.
We got our first styrene, which was a hard shell urethane and not really good for making custom built boards, but quite alright for what we call pop-outs.
It was a standard 9.6, about 22 wide, reasonably heavy because it had chop mat in it.
We used to line the mould with chop strand and pour the foam in, and they came out as a fully shaped board.
6 and a 10 ounce glass on the deck as well, so it was pretty solid.
Custom built boards were blown in the same type of mould, but a bit fatter, and these ones you put the stringers in and then shape the board, and that's using a water blown urethane.
Other shapers were doing pretty much the same thing up and down the country, and in terms of basics, not a lot has changed.
definitely points. I would say somewhere like Shipwreck would be just the classic.
Raglan's got to be one of the most perfect waves. You know, to its right size. You get Raglan, you know, head high.
Love outside indicators when it's sort of 6 to 8 foot, and there's so much room to move, and that you can actually, it's sort of, it definitely seems to be the best board to ride it on. Chivvy's is really good. McElroy's real good. I've got the surf there, but I heard it's pretty good. But that sort of wave,
3 to 5 foot on a nice right-hand point break. It's got some nice bowly sections, but also just some nice long wally sections.
I think Wamata Bar on 3 to 4 feet is the absolutely most perfect longboard wave you can get.
You've got the opinion of the breaks. I mean, I really enjoy Wamata Bar because it's so well lined up.
To get on Stent Road, that's good total power wave, and I think long boards out of Stent Road allow you to get into it, and it's more of a power surf than a hot dog wave. I mean, Waiwakaio for Taranaki people is the classic longboard break.
Another really good surf is Waizies, we call it Waizies, Waikaruga. That's a perfect longboard wave.
Longer peeling waves are the go, you know.
There's nothing like Mongamanu when it's breaking. Monga at 4 to 5 foot and breaking all the way through to the bay, you could certainly get a 300-400 metre ride.
Mongamanu, beautiful South Island wave, beautiful South Island wave. That's another classic wave. And of course, Gisborne has beautiful longboard waves. Macquarie and all those places.
The point's a really good wave for longboarding. It's nice and long. On good noise swells, it just wraps in, and pipe when it's small.
Macquarie Point when it's working, noise swell, light offshore. There's a few breaks down in Mahi that are worth checking out on the swell and the conditions.
Oh, crikey. Mongamanu, Murderer's Point, Magnet Bay's always a good in when it's clean. Brighton, that's why I started riding the longboard. Slow, fat, got sick of wiggling, wasn't 18 and didn't have a cracker up me.
Most of us surf Sumner most of the time because the wave is better suited for males. The other beaches around are pretty heavy beach break style wave.
My favorite one is the one that nobody else is riding and nobody else wants. I like a big wave, Dunedin St. Clair has awesome waves for longboarding when it's big, breaking way the heck out the back.
I think, let me turn the question back at you, Andrew. I think that a longboard is the perfect board for any wave.
There's nothing wrong with Brighton early morning when it's clean.
Playing for dying have all gone. There's nothing wrong.
best place to watch longboard surfing is off the new pier. It brings it right into your living room. You're right there. You can see the footwork going on. You can see the board pitch and roll and see the momentum change from a stall to a bit of a drive. Like quite often you can have 50 or 60 people up there watching a handful of guys just riding, 2-3 foot left-handers into the pier. And I really think that they're enjoying it. They are really enjoying it. They bring their families up there, and that sort of surfing is what they can relate to.
And all the leaves you blame for dying have all gone. There's nothing wrong, it's just the way that nature has of growing old. That nature has of growing old. When all the while there's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong.
Davidson boards, 1962. They've made a comeback.
So what we've done is got together and designed this new range of boards.
I realised the standard of the boards that were being made at this current stage, and I got thoroughly interested. Now involved with the Surfline board crew. Thought surfing was only a fad in this country, and I'm amazed that it's carried on right the whole way through, which is really the reason that I bowed out after that length of time, and I'm now back in there, and I've had a new board built, and in August last year I dropped it in at Shipwreck Bay, and I've had a ball ever since.
Well, there's only one style, I think, and that's the old style. The modern style longboarding, it hasn't got any style. Other than that, you're a learner, as far as I can see. You've got to have the style, is what it's all about.
And I think walking is a big part of it. I see a lot of people out there now shuffling up and down the board, but once you lose that style factor, the thing that captured everyone in the 60s, then you're changing it a wee bit.
I think the influence that modern shortboarding has had on modern longboarding in a way is good, but at the same time a longboard's not designed to just stand on the tail and throw it around. You've got to get up and down the board, you've got to get up on the nose.
Guys that want to trim and just nose ride, and they just like having a blast and feeling good. Whereas you get the likes of Fitz and Owen Barnes and that crew, they can actually snap a board really well. They are.
Modern era longboarding is only really beginning to catch up with the level of ability in fields such as nose riding and some of these elements of style.
The stuff they're doing now we've never dreamt was even possible, especially what you see on the overseas videos and that. And we didn't have the equipment. The equipment is miles better today. Traditional longboard surfing has a place that I'd really like to see maintained. To incorporate the modern manoeuvres that are made possible by the advances in the technology, that's just making it a really comprehensive sport.
The only traditional style I can look at is the way they turn the board with the drop knee turn. You've still got to turn your board. That's the backhand, I should say. Basically, the only reason we do the drop knee turn is because we had those big horrible fins, and we had to force our back foot down to turn the board around.
I've been through both eras, as I'm sure a lot of the older surfers around New Zealand also have, and I'm pretty certain they'll tell you that nothing's actually changed. The only thing that's changed is the equipment.
Combination of the old and the new is the way to go, because I think the old smooth style done a little quicker is certainly looks really good, and it feels good too.
does both, well, I think that's the true meaning of Mel riding these days, is of modern longboarding. I think it's a blend of both.
It is a bit tricky with them, all traditional, progressive. You just got to mix up the two.
If you want to be the best, you gotta have style.
Lyndon Kennings, former world number 9, current national champ. So far, he's the only guy ever to do the world longboard circuit.
There's actually no circuit as such, it's just a lot of contests with good money in them. But all the same guys are doing them, so to actually progress, you pretty much got to go and do all those contests. But basically to make a bit of a name for yourself so people know who you are. It's a bit hard when you rock up. No one knows who you are and stuff. You've got a few names to surf against, even if you surf rings around them, you're still going to get underscored. I saw what people were doing and stuff in '93 when I went over to the World Champs in Hawaii. And I realised I could actually do it, but I had a lot to learn. And I just got into it really and saw that I could do all right. And then the next year I went to Brazil with the New Zealand team, but just about won that. I had a few too many beers the night before, but you learn by your mistakes. Then with the help of a few friends and stuff, I went overseas. I went to Europe and had a bit of a go over there.
The king alligator, he's a turn of stone.
Did pretty good. Won a couple of contests in Europe. One in France, one in the UK. It's like their biggest longboard contest. Won 2,500 New Zealand, I think it was, or something like that. And won some more in France. I was doing pretty well, and then ended up 17th in Malibu at the World Champs that year. Did a few contests in the States and that, got through a few rounds, got third in the teams event they had at Malibu. I come home with a whole lot of trophies that year.
June. Zombie wolf are howling at the moon. It must be happening at a hoodoo thing.
In '95, things changed around a bit, but I ended up going to Reunion Island for the World Champs and placed 9th there. I missed out on by 0.18 of a point getting through into the next round, like the top 8. But then after that, I just found it a bit hard with sponsorship and that. I was actually placed 9th in the world, and I found it even harder to get money. I was lucky because Steinlager gave me money for the first 2 years, but America's Cup come along and kind of all my funds dried up.
While Lyndon's funds from Steinlager actually dried up, his other sponsors have stayed with him.
to me, a women to the right. All I wanna do is play the blues all night. It must be happening at a hoodoo thing. I had a visitation from a voodoo king. I had a visitation from the voodoo king. I had a visitation from a voodoo king. I had a visitation from the voodoo king. I had a visitation from a voodoo king. I had a visitation from the voodoo king. I had a visitation from a voodoo king. I had a visitation from the voodoo king.
The tradition continues. Another Kennings puts his best foot forward. A future New Zealand longboard champ? Who knows?
My boards are 21 inches wide, 9'1" generally in length, and because they're narrower, I think they tube ride better. I think that once you're used to riding a narrow board, there's no disadvantage in terms of nose riding.
Competition board that you see in New Zealand, a 9 foot 1, about 22 inches wide, heaps of rocker, triple concave. Roger Hall's been shaping my boards pretty much exclusively since I've been in New Zealand. You know, he's an awesome shaper. They turn from the tail like a short board, they ride the nose, glide, and paddle really good.
9'1", it's 23.5 wide. I like wide for stability, and they're about 3 inches thick, which I like for flotation. I mean, we keep going back to this winter thing, but you know, you stay a little bit higher above water, it's easier to paddle. I have Roger's thruster set up with the official side fins and the box at the back, so I can have it as a single fin, a twin fin, or as a thruster. You can get one board and change the fins, and it just changed the whole character of the board from being able to cope with 2 foot to 10 foot.
The last board was a 9'6". It was quite wide, I think it was 22 wide, and it was just a nose rod, a big wide nose and concave in the nose, and you know, you could just walk the nose and you could just stand up there all day if you got the right wave, you know, just hanging 5, hanging 10.
I ride a board that's 23 inches wide with an over 18 inch nose because I wanted to teach myself to learn a nose ride.
Well, the board I ride the most is this board. It's 9'2". It's 22.5 wide. It's a real traditional style of board. It's really heavy. It's just got a nice rolled deck. No super extreme rocker or anything. It's quite a basic all-round board, but it goes off in any conditions.
Like 22.5 wide at least, and with a 17.5 inch nose. The glass double 2.6 ounces top and bottom, so great. Maybe a little heavier, but I find it doesn't really matter when you're heavy. Because if they're too light, as soon as it gets offshore, you just get blown off the back, and there's no momentum for when it is small and you're nose riding and stuff. I've been riding Hughesy's boards the last 5 years or something now, and we've basically worked on the same board right the way along. We've just improved it every time, and got to something that actually works. I can ride it 1 foot, I can ride it 10 foot.
I'm riding a 12-foot tandem board at the moment. It's fully concaved and, 12 feet long by 28 inches wide, 8 inches thick, you know. It has a bit of meat on it, and it's a fun board to, you know, take the wife and kids out on. I call it the Holden station wagon board.
9'1", single stringer, very lightweight, single fin board. This is probably a throwback from the early days of the 62 through to about 67.
The one I'm presently riding, 9'2", 14 inch tail, 18 inch nose, 22.5 through the middle. Its thickness is 2 3/4. A tri-fin setup, 7 inch middle fin, 2 small fins either side. I think that's a key ingredient for me, is you can ride a longboard in any surf, you know, from half a foot in town to 6-7 foot out at Wainui, you know.
fingerboards. My brother makes these in Hawaii, and we surf on them in rivers, go up and hang two, or a drop knuckle turn. There's all kinds of ways you can ride fingerboards. North Island's really good because it rains a lot for fingerboards.
I'm a great believer, if a board looks good, it'll go well. If it looks funny, there's something wrong about it.
I used to hang around Brian Jackson's factory in Cronulla. He's still going today, he's one of the originals. But I never shaped a board till I come to New Zealand. And just started like most people, and I was pretty blind in those days because there wasn't a lot of people to watch, so it was pretty well sort of taught me. And from there, I mucked around in Auckland doing some shaping actually for Peter Way under his house, with a few boards there. Moved to Gisborne and started making boards, and at that stage I got Bob McTavish